really looking for photos of getting him, wasted. But, alcohol is such a huge part of Ukrainian Russian society that it was a picture that I had to take. So, I was just sort of anticipating that he was going to do something, because I had remembered from the last few times I photographed him. And there was this little berm, this hill, and he was kind of perched on it, and I thought, he was kind of getting a little bit wobbly with squatting, and I just kind of sat there. And, it's interesting as a photographer, because you so badly want to be taking a picture of everything that's happening. And when that was when he was perched there was other stuff going on, but I kind of had to take a risk and say, what's better? Do I get a good picture of what's going on to the left of me or what's going on to the right of me? And I thought, well, I'm just going to sit here. It was killing me, though, seeing something happening over there. And there was a time, and when I did swing over, and I took a picture, and just as I swung over, I noticed out of the corner of my eye that Sergei was just about to pass out. And you'll notice when you see the photograph, like technically it's a terrible photograph. The highlights are completely blown out, and that was because I had changed my shooting position. I think I accidentally knocked my shutter or something like that. So, I was off like a good blew it out, a couple of stops. So yeah, I just swung back and I got about 3 frames off of him. And, one good one, which I guess is all you need. But I remember when I was editing after, it never made it into my final edits at all, not even close. And I liked it. Oh, it's a nice picture. But a friend of mine saw it and said, "Oh, wow, that's a really good picture. Why don't you put that in your edit?" Oh, okay. And then I made an edit of Chernobyl. I didn't include that picture. I put that one in as a single. That's the picture. That's the picture that ultimately got me the World Press. Right. I went to Georgia because it's former Soviet country, so it's still within my sphere of interest. So for me, it was a very personal story. Even though war was declared by Russia and Georgia, I felt that I should go. I don't really consider myself a war photographer, but this was something that I wanted to see and wanted to say I wanted to do. So I went. And that first picture you're talking about, the severed hand, was I just arrived from flight from New York to Kiev on August 8th, I believe, which is the night that the Georgians attacked Skrivali in South Ossetia. And a friend of mine phoned me up and he said, Russia's invaded Georgia or something like that. It's a big thing. Let's go. Let's go. And I just, okay, let's go. And we went the next day. So we were sort of the first 2 sort of foreign photographers on the ground, and pretty much. But the interesting about that war in Georgia is that literally within 2 days, the major bombing campaign was pretty much over. And as I said before, I'm not really interested in the burning truck, and I always look for subtleties and sort of more nuance, especially doing something like war photography, because I thought I'm going to let the war photographers handle the war, and I'm going to look for something that maybe communicates something else. So, anyways, as we were wandering around where the Russians had flattened a series of apartment blocks, the building was still in flames, and there were people there collecting their belongings, and obviously a lot of grief and stuff. But what struck me was, there was body parts lying around, and to me that kind of communicated much more of a loss of, of what was there. It was just this hand, lying in this beautiful green grass. It was a warm August day, 30 degrees, and you could hear the birds and the wind blowing, and but at the same time you could, the intense heat from the flames, and you'd hear the sobbing of the women, and the men screaming to, get back in the house. We need to clear out right now. And there was this conflict, between the two, and I just saw that hand lying on the ground, and to me it sort of summed up the whole war, and it kind of sums up war in general, I think. And with the picture of the landscape with the poof of smoke, we were just sort of standing around a Russian checkpoint, and two MiGs came screaming overhead and dropped some bombs, and then, it's interesting, you see the planes, silence, and then suddenly there's that roar, and you see the things come down, but that poof of smoke, it was like a delay. There's always delayed reactions. And again, like the hand, it was, beautiful August day, blue sky, everything was green, and, the silence was, that was the one thing about that war that really sort of triggered in my mind, was about the silence and this sort of, the wind always blowing. It seemed to always be windy there. And then suddenly, you know, you'd be jarred out of it because you'd have an artillery blast or gunfire, or there was one instance where we were just walking along the road and it was a grass field, you know, a meter tall, and suddenly a bunch of women, about 10 women, popped up and started running and sort of screaming. So again, you know, this silence, this beauty was shattered by this, you know, I guess, this cries of war. And again, that's what I like about the landscape photo with the poof of smoke, is that it's not supposed to be there. It's an anomaly, and that was very interesting to me. And that's what I look for when I, you know, take those kind of pictures. Just over a year ago, the photo agency VII put out a call for members. And it's one of those things I kind of tend to do where I'm like, I don't know, I'm no good, I'm not going to submit. But then, like, the other side of me has said, just screw it, I'm going to do it. So one day I got together and edited 60 photographs. I was sort of, at the last minute, put together and just submit it. I thought, you know, you never know, what the hell, it's good to get your work out there. And plus it wasn't working that day, so it was sort of an easy thing. So yeah, I submitted a portfolio of work for membership in VII, not thinking that they'd take a look and say, oh, next. But to my surprise, I got an email from Gary Knight about a couple months later saying, you know, really enjoyed your work. You were placed in the top 10 for new inductees into our agency, but the only reason we cannot make you a full member right now is because who the hell are you? And I remember that as his subject line. He says, who the hell are you? I thought, well, that's kind of odd. Is he mad at me? But after reading that, you know, and now that I have become a part of VII, I've understood that it's more about making a family and like-minded photographers. And, you know, VII comes from the original VII founding members of the agency, who had all known each other for, you know, 15, 20 years. So for them to, and they only induct, you know, one person every 2 years or something like that. So to induct somebody who, you know, A, is Canadian, from Toronto, living in, you know, Ukraine, living in Russia, never sort of engaging within the larger photography community, to them that was a big risk. So what they decided to do is start an affiliate agency with 7 other people, which they call the VII Network. So I became a member of the VII Network. What's great about being a part of VII is that, you know, these are sort of, you know, the top war photographers, photojournalists of the last 20 years, and, you know, to be associated with an agency, with a group like that is really great. And, you know, I mentioned before, you know, and when I was 16, 17 years old, one of the first photographers that I ever knew of was Chris Morris, and, you know, to be a part of the agency that he started, you know, it's a big honor for me, and and it charges me as well, because I feel like I've got to press even harder now and go even harder because of the standard that's now being set. And that's why I like to be a part of a photo agency. Is not only, of course, they sell your archive, they try and get you assignments, they do this and they do that, but more importantly, you're within sort of a collective group of people that all have, you know, like-minded ideas and thoughts about, you know, moving forward. And what's great about VII is they do have prestige within the photography community, and so in a way, certainly with more influential members like James Knockway or Chris Morris or Anthony Tocqueville, you can have change. You can help, you know, move this industry forward to where it should be. And by being a member of the VII Network, or a photographer of the VII Network, I can, you know, be a part of that. Well, hopefully I'll be going to Kazakhstan in March, for about 6 weeks to continue my project that I'm calling Post-Atomic. So, you know, it's the Trinity, the Holy Trinity of Chernobyl, Kazakhstan, and hopefully by the end of the year I'll be in the South Pacific to photograph where the French or the Americans tested their nuclear bombs, and sort of about, you know, life in a post-nuclear world. But in May, I'm having a featured exhibit as part of the Contact Toronto Festival at Picto Gallery, and I'll be showing my work as part of my Guggenheim Fellowship that I received in 2007, 2008. So I'll be showing the bulk of my Russia work at the gallery. I'm looking forward to that.